The invitation came via a group chat, bubbly and innocuous. Sleepover at my place this Saturday. Pizza, movies, the works. New to town and would love to get to know you guys better. Address is attached. It was from Sarah, a girl I'd met a few times at our local bookstore's poetry slams. She was bright, enthusiastic, and seemed genuinely eager to make friends. I hesitated for all of a second before typing, "Sounds fun. Count me in." I regretted it almost immediately. I wasn't a sleepover kind of person. Never had been. But the thought of spending another Saturday night alone with reruns and existential dread was even less appealing. Besides, I wanted to like Sarah. I wanted to be liked. So, on Saturday evening, armed with a bag full of snacks, a well-worn copy of House of Leaves, because what could go wrong? And a forced smile, I found myself standing on the porch of Sarah's house. The house itself was unsettling. It wasn't dilapidated, exactly, but it possessed a strange aura of neglect. The paint was a faded, sickly yellow, peeling in places like sunburned skin. The lawn was overgrown, dotted with patches of bare earth. The windows were dark, reflecting my own anxious face back at me. It felt like a house that had been forgotten, a house that wanted to be left alone. I rang the doorbell, and after a moment Sarah answered. Her smile was as bright as I remembered, but there was a frantic edge to it, a subtle tension that made my stomach clench. "You made it," she chirped, ushering me inside. "Come on in. Everyone else is already here." The interior of the house was even more disconcerting than the exterior. The air was thick with dust and a strange, metallic scent. The furniture was old, mismatched, and covered in dark, floral patterns. The lighting was dim, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. It felt like stepping back in time, into a place where the world had stopped turning. 3 other girls were already there, sprawled on the living room floor amidst a sea of pizza boxes and half-empty soda cans. There was Emily, a sarcastic art student with bright pink hair. Chloe, a quiet, observant girl who always seemed to be taking notes in a small, leather-bound journal. And Maya, a bubbly, energetic girl who worked at the local coffee shop. They all greeted me warmly, if a little distractedly. Sarah launched into hostess mode, offering me pizza and drinks, trying to fill the awkward silence with forced conversation. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The house felt wrong, like a discordant note in an otherwise harmonious melody. As the night wore on, the initial awkwardness began to fade. We ate pizza, gossiped about mutual acquaintances, and watched a cheesy horror movie on a flickering DVD player. The atmosphere loosened, and for a while, I almost forgot about the unease that had settled over me. Then the static started. It was subtle at first, a faint crackling sound that I initially dismissed as interference from the old television. But it grew steadily louder, a constant, grating hiss that filled the room, making it difficult to hear. "Is that the TV?" Emily asked, frowning. Sarah fiddled with the remote. "I don't know. It's never done this before." She tried changing the channel, but the static remained, a persistent, intrusive presence. Finally, she switched off the TV. The static didn't stop. It was coming from the walls. A low, guttural hum vibrated through the house, growing in intensity until it felt like my teeth were rattling. The air crackled with an unseen energy. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to deepen, to writhe with a life of their own. What is that?" Maya stammered, her voice trembling. Sarah's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," she whispered. "I really don't." Then the lights flickered and died, plunging us into complete darkness. Panic erupted. We scrambled to our feet, bumping into each other in the dark. The static intensified, morphing into a cacophony of whispers, too faint to understand but undeniably present. "Sarah, where are the lights?" Chloe asked, her voice tight with fear. Sarah fumbled around, finally locating a flashlight on a nearby table. She switched it on, and the beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing our terrified faces. The beam of light also revealed something else. In the corner of the room, a dark shape was coalescing. It was tall and gaunt, its form indistinct but undeniably human. It seemed to be made of shadow and static, a living embodiment of the noise that filled the house. We screamed. The figure began to move, gliding silently across the room towards us. Its presence filled the space, pressing down on us with an unbearable weight. The air grew cold, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. Sarah screamed again, a high-pitched, terrified shriek. She swung the flashlight at the figure, but the beam of light passed right through it, as if it were nothing more than an illusion. "Run!" Emily yelled, shoving past me towards the door. We stumbled after her, desperate to escape the suffocating darkness and the horrifying figure that lurked within it. But as we reached the door, it slammed shut, as if by an unseen force. We were trapped. The static figure was closing in, its presence growing more intense with each passing moment. I could feel its cold breath on my skin, hear its whispers in my ear. The whispers were getting louder, and I could almost make out their meaning. They were calling my name. We huddled together, paralyzed by fear, as the figure reached out towards us. Its touch was like ice, burning my skin. I could feel it probing my mind, searching for something I didn't want it to find. Then, Chloe did something unexpected. She reached into her bag and pulled out her leather-bound journal. Flipping it open, she began to write furiously, her pen scratching against the paper in the oppressive silence. The static figure paused, its attention drawn to Chloe and her writing. It seemed confused. Chloe continued to write, her hand moving faster and faster. The whispers intensified, becoming more frantic, more desperate. Suddenly, the figure recoiled, as if struck by an invisible force. It writhed and twisted, its form flickering like a dying flame. Then, with a final, ear-splitting screech of static, it vanished. The lights flickered back on, bathing the room in a weak, yellow glow. The static was gone, replaced by an eerie silence. We stood there, gasping for breath, our bodies trembling with adrenaline. We looked at each other, our faces pale and drawn. What just happened?" Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. Chloe closed her journal and took a deep breath. I think I wrote it away." "Wrote it away?" Emily scoffed. "What are you talking about?" Chloe shrugged. "I don't know exactly, but I've always been able to sense things, to see things, and I think this house is haunted by something that feeds on negative energy, on fear and anxiety. I wrote about something positive, something hopeful. I focused on the good things in my life, on the people I care about. And I think it disrupted whatever it was feeding on." We stared at her, dumbfounded. It sounded crazy, but it was the only explanation that made any sense. Sarah was still pale with shock. I don't understand," she said. "I've lived in this house my whole life, and nothing like this has ever happened before." Chloe looked at her with sympathy. "Maybe it's been dormant, or maybe it's been feeding on you." Sarah's face fell. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Chloe said gently, "but I sense a lot of sadness in this house, a lot of unresolved issues. Maybe whatever it is has been drawing strength from your unhappiness." Sarah didn't say anything, but I could see the truth in Chloe's words reflected in her eyes. We spent the rest of the night huddled together, talking in hushed voices. We learned about each other's fears, our hopes, our dreams. We shared stories, laughed, and cried. And as the sun began to rise, painting the sky with streaks of pink and orange, the oppressive atmosphere of the house began to lift. I never went back to Sarah's house, and I never saw her again. But I often think about that night, about the static house and the terrifying figure that lurked within it. I think about the power of fear and the importance of hope. And I think about Chloe, the quiet, observant girl who saved us all with her words. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the shadows are long, I can still hear the faint echo of static in the walls. And I remember the chilling lesson I learned that night. Some houses are best left alone. Some doors are best left unopened. And some friendships are forged in the fires of shared terror, leaving scars that never truly fade. The static remains, a constant reminder of the night the house almost consumed us all, and a stark reminder that sometimes the things we fear the most are not the monsters under the bed, but the darkness within ourselves and the places we choose to hide.